Members of council, if I can please have you take your seats. This meeting is now resumed. Madam Clerk.
The next speaker is George Jacobs.
Okay, you have Councillor Campbell. Councillor Shiner, please. Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Councillor Ainsley, please. Okay.
Good afternoon. It was initially it was good morning. My name is George Jacobs. I'm a resident of Ward 44, and I'm seeking the approval of council to be appointed interim council for Ward 44. I'm not affiliated with, nor do I represent any special interest or business or political groups. I am not a politician. I guess you can say I'm the consummate suit in the room. I'm a business graduate with a CPA, CMA designation and 30 years experience in the private sector across the broad section of business sectors and organizational disciplines. I have, during my career, developed or managed the implementation of large operational and capital budgets, long-range plans, and specific project initiatives. I've directed accounting and financial functions, negotiated vendor service contracts, software license agreements, client service levels agreements. I've managed the selection, implementation, and client support functions for a number of technology solutions, and I've ran a consultancy practice, providing clients with valued business advice solutions. I've also provided interim management services for clients in need of specific skills, expertise, and experience. As my business career is now wound down, I am now looking for the opportunity to give back to the community by contributing my business experience to the public sector. I believe I'll bring a fresh and effective approach to council if appointed. I say this because I believe my broad base of skills and years of experience are easily transferable to the public sector, and the challenge of being the interim councillor for Ward 44. And also because I view the structural makeup and operation of council as being very similar to the large corporations that I worked in. For example, I see the mayor as the equivalent of a CEO, the executive committee as the equivalent of a corporate or senior management committee, and the members of council I liken to business units or subsidiary managers. The big difference in my view between the private and the public sector is that this council, with the support of various cities departments, must always come to a consensus on plans and policies to move the city forward in major areas such as transportation, infrastructure, housing, etc., while at the same time trying to balance the diverse wants and needs of constituents, business, and interest groups across all 44 wards. A structure that is much more complex than I experienced in my business career. To succeed as the interim councillor for Ward 44, it'll take someone who is willing to commit a vast amount of time, have the patience and energy to build consensus and the skills to accumulate a broad base of knowledge about local and city issues and opportunities. A mammoth task for any successful candidate today, given there is only a 14-month time limit placed on the successful appointee of Ward 44. If appointed, I would carry out my duties in a similar manner as the interim management roles I successfully completed in my business career. An approach I believe that would allow me to serve all Ward 44 constituents in the city in an effective and conscientious and diligent manner. My plan for the next 14 months of appointed Ward 44 councillor would be A, to meet with city staff to quickly come up to speed with policies, protocols, and regulations governing the office of councillor. I've read through some of the policies and protocols and documents, and this alone is no easy task to complete. 2, review all the upcoming council agenda items and do the research on the subject matter and communicate with fellow councillors to seek out their viewpoint or input. C, work with the support staff of the late Councillor Moser to keep moving forward the initiatives, concerns, and programs and policies, etc., that he as duly elected representative was working on. Items such as illegal rooming houses, the issue up by the universities and the college, and the problems with the neighbors and the landlords and the tenants there. Restrictions on street parking and driveway parking. Ward 44 is basically a bedroom community, and a lot of the people have several vehicles and are required have those vehicles because there isn't readily available transportation. So we need to look at ways of accommodating the fact that there's only one driveway and 2 or 3 cars. Access to reliable and prompt public transportation in and out of Ward 44 was something Rosa was working on in Scarborough Waterfront Project. D, I would like to continue to keep communicating with the constituents of Ward 44 on city issues. Then consult regularly with constituents, local interest business groups to obtain their input or concerns or initiatives to improve the quality of life for the residents of Ward 44 in the city. And also, I look forward to bringing working and living together in Ward 44. The current profile of the ward is mainly residential.
Excuse me, can you please wrap it up? You're over 5 minutes.
Oh, I am sorry. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, I'm over 5 minutes. I apologize. And I was going to say that in business, first impressions count. And today you're listening and evaluating 48 of these. And my hope is today that you believe that I have met your set of expectations and urge your support to be appointed into Council of Ward 44. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? No? Okay, thank you very much.
The next speaker is Suzanne Thilakan.
Okay, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Madam Speaker, Mayor Tory, members of council, city staff, and to everyone who's gathered here today. My name is Suzanne Thilakan, and I hope I can count on your support for interim councillor for Ward 44. I would like to state that if appointed, I have no intention at this time to run for Ward 44 in the 2018 election, and that my priority, if appointed, is to continue the work of the late Ron Moser in a caretaker capacity. I have resided in Scarborough for over 24 years, having lived in wards 40 and 42. I still remember as if it was yesterday walking to my grade 4 class about 19 years ago, meeting Councillor Kelly. The younger version of myself wouldn't have probably seen this happening, but it's an exciting opportunity to work alongside yourself and other members of council if appointed. And thank you again, Mr. Kelly, for your years of public service. I'm seeking appointment today to raise concerns of Ward 44, engage in effective dialogue with council, and make decisions that will bring forth change. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "You must be the change you want to see in the world." Having not lived in the ward directly, I hope to bring a new perspective to issues at hand that will allow me to effectively meet the needs of the constituents. To have success as an interim councillor, my priority within the first 30 days is to understand the main issues that will impact the ward and city at large. I plan to and will review the minutes of previous City Council and Scarborough Council meetings. While transit is an issue that impacts Scarborough and not limited to Ward 44, issues related to the Highland Creek wastewater treatment plant, the work on Port Union Road, and the waterfront will remain on the list of items to work on. Through community engagement, I hope to speak with constituents and all stakeholders to understand other issues impacting the ward. Once I'm able to understand issues, I hope to prioritize them and work together with council to find solutions that can be implemented. While the scope of the work will be demanding and involve hard work, I plan to dedicate all working hours to being an effective councillor. My priority will be to ensure Ward 44 receives the highest level of service. I'm currently working as an investment consultant and have been working with TD for approximately 8 years. My current role has been very rewarding as I'm able to speak with Canadians coast to coast and truly make a difference in helping them build a financial plan that can help meet both their short and long-term goals. I've educated clients on the financial markets and provided them with the tools to succeed. Customer experience has always been a core reason of why TD could be considered a better bank, and I hope to provide an excellent level of service to the constituents of Ward 44. One of the other concerns I always had was with financial literacy and working with youth through junior achievement. I've taught middle school students the importance of setting goals and creating a framework by which you focus on the small tasks to build towards long-term goals. By being an effective listener and good communicator, I'm confident in my ability to lead in Ward 44. My educational background includes a bachelor's in international business administration from the Schuller School of Business, York University, and in October 2016, I obtained my chartered financial analyst designation. The CFA Institute stated mission is to promote and develop a high level of educational, ethical, and professional standards in the investment industry. The high level of professionalism is one that I will carry with me always. In addition to replacing the late councillor on the committees he was working on, I'd also be very interested in joining the audit committee. I would also be interested in creating an advisory committee within Ward 44 with many of the hopeful candidates that are here today. From the previous speeches that I've heard, I referenced Mr. Cole's experience as a firefighter, to Mr. Bruce, who is, in one word, could be described as a doer, and hopefully working with Mr. Hart and the late Ron Moser's staff. I'm a respected leader amongst my peer and would describe myself to be hardworking, detail-oriented, and a team player. I have a strong desire to have City Hall work for the constituents of Ward 44, and my approach working with council will be pragmatic and logical. Author Maria Robinson once said, "Nobody can go back and start a new beginning, but anyone can start today and make a new ending." I hope I can count on your support and work together to script a new ending. My strong educational background, work experience, and skills gained will be valuable in council. Once again, please vote Suzanne Thilakan, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Next is Kevin Kipling.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Madam Speaker, Mayor Tory, and members of council, my name is Kevin Kipling, and I've lived in Ward 44 most of my life. Please note that I'm correcting the ward number beside my name on a list that was prepared. I don't know why. I've never lived in Ward 41. I've lived at 10 Dean Park Road for 25 years, about a 5-minute walk south of Shepherd Avenue, the northern boundary of this ward. I went to public schools in Ward 44, Charlottetown and Mowat Collegiate, Centennial College in Scarborough for communications and travel and tourism. I've been a member of the West Rouge Canoe Club, West Hill Hockey, Army Cadets, Rotary, a volunteer with Special Olympics, Toronto special events right here in Nathan Phillips Square, and it's smoking hot out there today. Whew. And I've been here before. In the 1980s, I came here with a petition that I'd circulated to request a traffic light at Lawrence Avenue East and Centennial Road. Early one September evening, I was among 3 people hit by a car that went through a crosswalk. I had the worst of the injuries. Among them, my neck was fractured in 3 places. After surgery and a year with a neck brace, I presented my case for the traffic light to City Council. The light went in years ahead of schedule. Later in the 1980s, I lived in Muskoka for about 4 years and worked as the news director of the only radio station up there at the time. I did 13 newscasts every day and covered town council meetings, Muskoka District Council, and school board meetings. There are 6 towns in Muskoka, by the way. I covered some Metro and City Council, Committee, TTC, and many police service board meetings here in Toronto, working for AM 640 and sister station Q107. Once, to get ambient sound for an interview, I rode the subway with longtime City Councillor Howard Moscow, and I interviewed Mel Lastman in his North York office the day that he coined the phrase, "blue box bandits." Moving forward, I have concerns about the environment and the future of the treatment plant at the bottom of Beach Grove Avenue in Ward 44. The racers on Port Union Road that try to get to the GO train or from the GO train as fast as they can. This week, the TTC was named the best public transit agency on the continent, and I believe in long-term plans to do it right with the Scarborough subway. The roads in Ward 44 deserve special attention because many of them are a visitor's first impression of Toronto. Many of the roads leading to the Toronto Zoo, which is not in Ward 44, by the way, it's been mentioned a few times today as if it is. The New Rouge National Park, the Pan Am Pool, and the West Rouge Conservation Area are some of the worst in Toronto. We have the only campground in the city of Toronto in Ward 44. On this side of the Rouge River, it's in Toronto by that much. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for what you do every day, and I thank you for your time. Please vote for me, Kevin Kipling, for Ward 44.
Thank you. Questions? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cassie Hawk.
Good afternoon. His Worship Mayor John Tory, Madam Speaker and Deputy Speaker, distinguished members of the Council, and my co-competitors who are waiting since morning here about this selection process. My name is Kazi Haq. If I add my middle name, complete name is Kazi Sadrul Haq. And I emigrated to Canada in 1993. Since then, I have been actively involved in the community on a number of roles, such as the chair of the board of directors, vice chair of the board of directors, and members of the standing committee on children and youth issues during Mayor David Miller's time, and also advisory committee members of a number of organizations that I am affiliated with. I live in Scarborough, Ward 44, since 2000. Prior to that, I was living in Ward 42. Currently, I am the president of Bangladeshi Canadian Community Services, a non-profit charitable multi-service organization that has been offering services to the community in the Beaches East York area and in a Scarborough area since the early 2000s. Guided by my vision and knowledge of the community services sector, Bangladeshi Canadian Community Services is moving forward, supporting the needs of the community through various programs of importance to seniors, children, and youth. I have received several awards and honors during my professional life and academic life, including the Canada's prestigious Citizenship Award from the Government of Canada in 2010, in recognition of my contribution to assisting newcomers integrating into Canadian society. I have also received a gold medal and citation from Human Rights and Race Relations Centers, Toronto in 2003 in recognition of my contribution to the promotion of race relations, and a certificate of recognition from the Ontario Minister of Citizenship and Immigration at that time for my contribution to the community services. I have more than 20 years' experience in the nonprofit social services sector in Canada from 2002 to 2015. More than 13 years, I have held the position of executive director, plus, or whatever you may call a CEO of an organization which used to be named as South Asian Family Support Services, now called Settlement Assistance and Family Support Services, contributing significantly to the growth of the organization. When I started, the organization was in a mess, and then over a period of 13 years, I brought it into a shape, and then I decided to take time off from there just recently. Prior to that, I was working with the Social Planning Council of Toronto as a research planner and policy analyst. So I am aware of the city budget process and how these budget cuts affect the community, especially the racialized community. And part of my role was to monitor the city budget process and what the cuts are and how it's going to impact the community, especially the racialized communities. I have done all those things, so I'm familiar with the city processes and procedures to some extent, if not to a great extent. And I know some of the councillors by face and by name, but not all of you, because there has been so many changes in recent years. And prior to Social Planning Council, I worked as a supervisor of administration and research with the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. And after that, I came to Social Planning Council. And I think everybody knows about Social Planning Council, what it does. I don't have to repeat. I have held teaching appointments with various universities in Bangladesh, USA, and Canada at the senior level of both academic and administrative. And I hold a PhD degree from Purdue University, Indiana, and a master's from Carleton University, Canada, in addition to a prior master's and a Bachelor of Honors in sociology from my country back home at the University of Dhaka.
Excuse me, can you please wrap it up? It's
Yes, thank you very much. I am a Canadian citizen, currently living in Scarborough, Ward 44, with my wife and 3 children. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd be glad to accept any questions if you have.
Councillor Shan, you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is the same as before the Highland Creek Heritage Festival incident, and what would your response be, and how would you react or take further steps in that situation?
First of all, this incident should not have happened the way it happened. So I have to investigate who the people are responsible for this. And first of all, I have to talk to the event organizers. And I also, if necessary, have to call the city office, appropriate office of the city, and to find out if there is a policy in place. If there is no policy, that policy must have to be reviewed or revised by the council so that this kind of thing does not happen, because this simply creates tension in the community for no reason.
Thank you. Councillor Perks.
Thank you. Are you willing to make a commitment that should we appoint you to this role, that you would not run for re-election in the same ward?
Thank you. When I applied for this position, I was concentrating myself only on this job. As of now, I am concentrating on this. If I am selected, I will concentrate on my attention to my job, whatever I have to offer. Beyond that, I am not in a position to tell you at this point what I am going to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Vito Grachov, please.
Hi.
5
Good
minutes.
afternoon. Thanks for your time today. I've never been in front of City Council. Wow, what an experience it's been thus far. An incredible group. Applaud to all of you. This is the best experience I've ever had. Regardless of what happens today, I want to thank you for that. I will walk away more informed, more educated, and a better Torontonian because of it. My name's Vito Grachov. I live in Scarborough. I've lived in Scarborough my entire life. And I lived in Ward 44 for the last 15 years. We, my wife and I, have raised our family there, participated in Heron Park, gone to Mowat, Charlottetown, volunteered for Heart and Stroke, canvassing door to door, my son and I. Recently, I've been volunteering with the Tony Stacey Center for Veterans Care. So we're a key part of the community, and I think Ward 44 is sort of the gem of Toronto. It's a beautiful area. Taking the GO train in today was, when you're looking at the lake on one side, the golf course on the other side, it's a great part of the city. Excuse me. When my parents first immigrated to Canada back in the 50s, we've seen a tremendous amount of change in our city. I mean, Toronto's exploded in terms of population, the landscape, the skyline, the changing faces. Just look around this room. So much has changed, but Toronto's remained steadfast, in my opinion, in its ability to look forward. We have a history of moving forward, and it's not an oxymoron. I believe that is what really makes Toronto, Toronto, looking forward. I remember as a kid taking pride when Olga flew over the city and the CN Tower was constructed. Tallest structure in the world, forever. That was a huge pride peg for Toronto. Someone mentioned that TTC was recently awarded Best Transit Program in North America, but when I was a kid, it was the best in the world for numerous years. I believe that, Toronto is Toronto the good. That's what I grew up with. I mean, we're like Chicago or New York, but cleaner and nicer, of course. There's been a lot of great work done over the last few years, and I want to be part of that. I want to be part of that continuing progress. That's really why I'm here today. I want to be part of the future of the Six, albeit for a short time. I want to help. I want to help my city. I want to help my community. I want to help my neighbors. We live, I believe, in the best city in the world. But like anything, we can always do better. How? Hard work, dedication, like all of you, obviously. Putting the needs of my ward and my city first, because it's not about me. It's really not. I spent many years in the corporate world where it was all about me, the right lunch, the right meeting, the right people to connect with. But we as a team, we need to think bigger, wider, about our city as a whole. I've had the pleasure of working with some of the greatest brands in the world, from AT&T to Xerox, Ford, General Motors, Nissan, Toyota. And I look at our city as a brand. A brand is a promise. A brand stands for something. And I believe I believe in Toronto as a brand, and I want to be part of continuing to build that great brand. When I discussed this opportunity with my family, and they're part of this decision, of course, the kids told me, yeah, go for it, Dad. And I asked them, I said, what do you want from Toronto? What do you want your Toronto to be? And they surprised me, as they often do. I want a place where there's lots to do. I want a place where I can feel safe. And this was the surprising part. I want a place that I can afford to live. I never thought about that at that age. But with $1 million for a small bungalow, or over $1 million average price, it's top of mind with kids today. It's top of mind with the next homeowners, the Torontonians that are continue to build our city. I'm not standing here saying we need to reduce prices, but I think as a team, we can figure out a way to make it more affordable for them, because they will be the ones building Toronto next. I worked in the auto industry for a long time, and I remember going to Detroit, and it was exactly 5:01. I walked out of the building, and the downtown core was empty. You could shoot a cannon through there. I never want our city to become like that. I want our city to remain vibrant. And I believe it's the responsibility of this council to deliver on those lofty but not unreasonable goals, especially as our city continues to change, to evolve, and to grow. I started this address telling you that I'm a resident of Ward 44. I believe the next councillor should be from Ward 44. I know my hood, I know my ward, I know my neighbors. Final point is, as we create this legacy, I want my kids and their kids and their kids' kids to take the same pride I did growing up in Toronto.
Can you please wrap it up?
Yeah, thank you for your time, and I appreciate it. Please
Thank you.
consider Vito.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Next is Cheryl Lewis-Tharab.
Five minutes.
Hi, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Mayor John Tory, Madam Speaker, members of the Council. Happy Pride Month to everyone who is celebrating, and happy 150th anniversary to Canada. My name is Cheryl Lewis-Tharab. I am honored to be here today and for the opportunity to speak with you. If you are looking for a candidate who is willing to roll up her sleeves and kick off her heels and get the job done, then I am your person. President Barack Obama wrote a book entitled The Audacity of Hope. Today, I stand before you with not just hope, but a strong desire to work for and with the residents of Ward 44, Scarborough East. I would like to touch on two of the issues that we as residents face on a daily basis: transit and accessibility issues. I am very pleased that transit is at the forefront of everyone's mind. The TTC is doing a great job with the buses in Ward 44, but we need a way to cut down on the commute time. At the moment, it takes roughly 35 to 40 minutes to get to the closest subway and could take up to 1.5 hours to get downtown on a good day. That is barring no service disruptions on the subway, which seems to take place almost on a daily basis. The Scarborough subway system is a great option and will help to alleviate some of the commute time for the commuters who use it. The residents of Ward 44 Scarborough East will benefit from an LRT to University of Toronto. I look forward to that phase of the transit journey. I would also like to speak on the issue of accessibility. Having a relative with a disability puts me in the unique position to experience firsthand the hardships that individuals with disabilities deal with on a daily basis, including discrimination and lack of accessibility. It's great to see the city and province working towards making Ontario fully accessible by the year 2025. I have paid close attention to the strides that are being made in this area through AODA, Accessibility for Ontarians with Disability Act. Over the years, I have kept abreast of the ongoing dialogue to ensure that as an individual and as a community member, I am also doing my part to make this goal a reality. Example, by serving on the ODA committee at my previous workplace, as well as attending various seminars and discussions, including the recently concluded Toronto Accessibility Plan consultation at Scarborough Civic Centre on June 14th. Having these ongoing dialogues can only help to further the progress in this area. My greatest joy comes from helping others to succeed. As a speaker and empowerment coach, my goal is to impact the life of others in a positive way, that is, the lives of others. Over the years, I have worked and volunteered with a number of community organizations, including United Way and Canadian Breast Cancer Foundation. Whether I'm speaking at a corporation about how their money helped the United Way, or talking about the risk of breast cancer and its effect on society, my goal is always to connect with the people that matters most. You. I've sat on several boards and committees, including Toronto Community Housing, Tenant and Youth Committees, Touchstone Youth Shelter, and various others. As a lover of arts and culture, I have been involved with numerous endeavors. I've spent long hours sewing costumes or traveling to events where my daughters were performing, including Toronto Caribbean Carnival and Pride Parade. I would like to point out some of the reasons why I am the best candidate for the job. I am a resident of Ward 44 Scarborough East, so I know firsthand of the issues being experienced in our community. I am not a politician, however, I am aware of the issues in the city. I am therefore able to bring a fresh perspective to this role. I believe that council should reflect the diversity of our city, the community, and the country as a whole. I am a woman, a person of color, and an immigrant. I came from a country that is very similar to Canada in terms of diversity. I'm community-minded. I have a long history of community work with a strong desire to work across platforms and boundaries. These are just a few of the qualities that I bring to this role. Toronto is one of the most diverse places to live. As a resident of Ward 44 Scarborough East, I take great pride in my surroundings. Councillor Moser did an excellent job in advancing the issues in the community.
Can you please wrap it up?
Yes, I can. There is much more work to be done. I would like to thank you once again for this opportunity. I look forward to continuing the dialogue as Councillor of Ward 44 Scarborough East. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I'll ask that question in a minute. Councillor Perks?
Maybe she should become speaker. Can I ask, in the event that we appoint you to this position, would you be willing to make a commitment that you not run for re-election?
I would. I currently have no desire. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Shan?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is the same as before. The Confederate flags at the Highland Creek Heritage Festival, and a woman had raised it, but it was not taken, immediate action wasn't taken, and a formal apology has not been given yet. And they referred this matter to the councillor. If you were appointed the councillor, how would you deal with it? But also, if you were in the situation, how would you have dealt with it? Thank you.
In which situation?
At the festival, if it was raised to you at that time by an attendee that they have seen something like that and has impacted them, how would you have dealt with that at the festival? And then if you weren't there and if it's brought to your attention, how would you deal with that?
Okay. So first of all, I believe in freedom of expression. And the lady, seeing this, I understand her concern. The person who did this might not have been aware of the ramifications of their actions. As the councillor in that position, while I may not immediately speak to that person, I will ensure the dialogue is had, and I will ensure that we work to ensure that the community member feels good by encouraging a dialogue between the two parties. I have been trained in mediation and conflict resolution. I think I can use those skills to see that through. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Through you to Ms. Lewis-Thurb. Ms. Lewis-Thurb, can you help us, this council, to understand, and Torontonians, the benefits and value with respect to diversity of not only voices and so on, but with respect to those as part of our colors and also the idea that diversity brings with it an opportunity to make this city a better place. Can you give us your perspective on that, please?
Of course.
Thank you.
We have a very diverse country. We have a very diverse city. I think diversity and inclusiveness is really important. And we see that on a daily basis. I believe in equal opportunity. And I think that every workplace and every community should reflect the diversity that we have across the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Next is Kiruthika Parran.
Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mayor Tory, Madam Speaker, Madam Clerk, and members of the Council. My name is Kirthika Parran, and I'm happy to be in front of you today as a candidate for Ward 44. I'm 20 years old, and I'm an active member in the community in many ways, and I'm so excited that I'm here taking up this opportunity to speak in front of you. My family currently owns a business which gives me the opportunity to speak to many people from different areas in Toronto, and specifically a great number of people from Ward 44. I currently run a small non-profit organization named Because No One Is Alone, and our main focus is on creating awareness for teen suicide and mental health issues, and creating means for people to connect to their parents and connect to the community to prevent teen suicide. This is a very sensitive topic, and it's one topic that's brought in a lot of attention, and my goal is to bring forth more attention to this and give this great seriousness and more attention as well. I strongly believe that the experiences I have been through by volunteering and conducting community events has made me a well-rounded person for this role and for this community as well. I'm currently an active member at the University of Toronto Scarborough campus, which is also located in Ward 44, which helps me better understand the struggles as a student and as a member of the community and what we need right now. As many of the other candidates address transportation as an issue, yes it is, and since I am part of the school community, I know exactly how every student there commutes to school and the struggles they go through on a daily basis. And I know the importance of public transportation and what measures need to be taken in order to fix that issue. I know how hard Mr. Ron Moser has worked for Ward 44, and he has never let the littlest excuses come in his way when he had to respond for the ward. He was a great man and a great role model, and I assure that I'll do my job right in order to continue to make Ward 44 a great community for everyone. Communication is key for this role, and I believe that my communication skills are appropriate to become the councillor for Ward 44. I speak English, Tamil, and French, Tamil being my mother tongue. According to the 2011 census, Tamil is the second in the top 10 home languages in Ward 44. Therefore, my fluency in the top 2 home languages of Ward 44 will be very beneficial for me and for the community. The reason why I've applied to be appointed as a city council member is because I strongly believe that this would be a great opportunity for the voice of the youth to be heard. With the growing population of the upcoming generation, it is really important that their voice and their opinions be heard as well. Again, according to the 2011 census, approximately 13.6% of the population in Ward 44 consists of people between the ages of 20 to 29. This is a crucial age which both young adults and adults are at great capacity and filled with great ideas for the betterment of the community and for the city. What better way to project that voice than from someone that is part of that age group itself? I believe my energy and enthusiasm to create a change will definitely have a great positive impact on Ward 44. We are the voice of today and we are the voice of tomorrow. Thank you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Councillor Shan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The same question to you as well about the incident that took place at Highland Creek Festival. Can you tell me how you would have responded and how you'd respond moving forward?
Yep, I think that's a very important situation, and a situation that could be used as an example for anything else in the future as well. We live in a very diverse community, and where freedom of speech is very important, whether it's social media, whether it's just projecting their voice in any community events, people are always out there, people always want to express how they feel. And that's exactly what I think happened in that specific incident as well. But it is our responsibility and our job to make sure that we implement the correct policies to know that everyone freedom of speech can be taken in a right way and a wrong way because everyone has their different opinions and everyone has different facts about what they think about. So when we implement certain policies, and it's important to consider everyone's perspective and everyone's sides, because at the end of the day, we know that we can't satisfy everyone, but we can implement the right policies to make sure that the right job is done.
Thank you. Councillor Perks.
Thank you. In the event that council appoints you to hold this position, would you be willing to make a commitment not to run for re-election?
Yes, definitely. That's not, it's not something I've considered as of now, so yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tatiana Kuzminik. Tatiana Kuzminik. Mohammed Mirza. Mohammed Mizra. Bobby S. Singh.
Okay, you have 5 minutes.
Great. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, Madam Speaker, and Honorable Council members. My name is Bobby Singh, and it is my pleasure to present to you my case in becoming the next Ward 44 councillor. By way of introduction, I'm a member of the Punjabi Sikh community and have lived in my entire life in the district of Scarborough, specifically 30 years as a resident in Ward 44. I have watched this community develop and transition from a predominantly English-Canadian community to now representing multiple minority groups accounting for over 56% of the population, with South Asians serving as the largest visible minority. From the time I held my first job working at Wilco in the old Morningside Mall, to the time I was completing my undergraduate studies at the University of Toronto Scarborough campus in Highland Creek, to more recently dining at the Black Dog Pub, or jogging along the Rouge Beach Trail, or attending multiple community events like this week's past Port Union Waterfront Festival. Ward 44 is my home, and it is my place of a comfort. As related to my educational background, I hold bachelor degrees in economics and psychology from the University of Toronto, a master's in business administration degree from the Schulich School of Business, and presently completing a master's in public policy administration and law at York University as well. By profession, I am an entrepreneur with over 20 years' experience in creating, implementing both profitable and growing business models. I have set up community-based businesses providing services to residents throughout the city and beyond. Presently, I am consulting as a financial lead for 2 startup companies, one in healthcare and the other in agricultural produce. I have over 10 years of extensive community-based experience while serving as a board member for several nonprofit organizations representing marginalized groups in the context of human rights. Finally, I have consulted academic institutions in the city on how to eliminate access barriers to education. So why do I seek appointment? I have 3 reasons. First, the residents of Ward 44 feel underserved and neglected. In recent years, many of the issues addressed by residents might have been heard, but remain to be acted on. Second, the demographics of the community have changed substantially over the years. Having someone who better reflects the diversity within the community and who can provide innovative and fresh ideas to tackle some of the more challenges evident now is preferred by residents. Finally, while continuing to meet existing obligations as a councillor, my intentions are to use this very short mandate as a platform to leverage my experiences and skill sets to address some significant issues which impact not only Torontonians, but also Canadians. What are some of these issues? What is labeled by some as the alienated section of the city, Ward 44 lacks adequate transportation routes and accessibility to meet the needs of residents. This has resulted in spin-off effects. For instance, consumer traffic is extremely low, directly impacting small businesses. Furthermore, concerns raised regarding safety and speeding on residential streets continues to haunt parents with young children. Residents are deeply concerned about the waste debris which has washed up along the shorelines at Rouge Beach due to the recent flooding. And finally, providing opportunities for youth to engage with prospective employers is a concern for many visible minorities living within this community. Regarding significant policy issues for the city, the subway extension line remains most critical and needs to proceed. Multiple studies, both locally and globally, strongly suggest that there exists a positive correlation between adequate transportation routes and overall business development and growth. Investitures made in transportation infrastructure will lead to increased tax revenues that council can then allocate accordingly to develop new and innovative strategies to address problematic policy areas like community housing, youth unemployment, and excess medical wait times for patients with mental health challenges. Finally, I intend to raise awareness to the challenges faced by marginal groups and members of the persons with disabilities communities as related to barriers to access to education. As I too struggled as a member of both these communities, I pledge to continue pushing the province for policy reform that will address unfair discriminatory admissions models that are still in use by colleges and universities. In close, the people of Ward 44 would prefer a councillor who is actively engaged, willing to embrace diversity, and who can bring about significant improvement and change through new and fresh ideas. Voting for me today will demonstrate that City Council is inclined to making its membership more inclusive to benefit Ward 44 and the City of Toronto. And with that said, I'm more than happy to take your questions.
Thank you. Councillor Perks.
Thank you. In the event that council appoints you to this position, would you be willing to make a commitment that you won't run for re-election?
As of now, I have no interest in pursuing the role further, but I haven't put much thought into it.
Thank you. Councillor Shan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Same question about Highland Creek Heritage Festival. How would you have handled it if you were there? And how would you handle it if it comes to your file if you were appointed?
Right. I think Councillor Sean handled the incident fairly well. Unfortunately, it was deferred back to Ward 44, my understanding. If I was appointed, what I would do is I would probably pursue a further investigation to gather more facts to make a more well-informed decision as to what resulted. Based on those facts, I would obviously collaborate with my counterpart, my colleague, Councillor Sean, and with the organizer and individuals that were responsible, and have an open dialogue. If the intent was ill, then certainly there are additional options to consider.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The next speaker is Aitohan Patience Evbegharu.
Five minutes.
Thank you for all of your patience. I am finally here. Members of council, good afternoon. My name is Patience Ebagaru. I am a driven young woman majoring in global political studies at York University. I'm determined to enter the political arena, not to just repeat the worn-out slogan of, making a change. I have a plan to work closely with my community and ward in bridging municipal politics and with unemployed people, the working class, and most importantly, the youth. Sorry, guys, I'm quite nervous. I've never been in front of council, but give me a second. Everybody has a time where, they have to go step by step and get their point out. Anyways, and just a little patience. I never limit myself to challenges, never ever, but in fact, I challenge my challenges. I adjust quickly and crave a universal connection and building that could only be made with love and wisdom. I am fluent in about 5 languages and currently learning more to be able to connect with people from all over the world, because I do believe in broken telephone. I believe there is no experience needed when representing, except for understanding and trust. That's very important when you're representing people or anyone in general. My sincere condolences to you all as we have lost a remarkable leader, to you guys a colleague and a friend. May his soul rest in perfect peace. Before publicly announcing my intentions on submitting my name to be considered for this prestigious position, I went to Ward 44 and I conducted a little survey with a few people. My aim was really to just find out what I think they'd want in a candidate, what they want in a leader, what they'd want in a new representative that would take in that position at such a sensitive time like this. The answers were quite the same. They were quite similar, very similar. And I quote, one said, I like a young individual that's driven and motivated to bring new ideas, maybe one who's lived in Ward 44, one who hasn't, one who understands the hardship citizens of this area undergo daily, a realist individual, and not one overrepresented idealist politician that we see globally today. Like I said, I just quoted it, not adding anything here. I ask another, and I quote again. One said, diversity would be a great asset. We're willing to accept whoever is clever. I don't mean to sound sexist, but a female, I think, would carry this word in her heart on a different scale. It would be different for the short while and would really showcase diversity and a change of pattern. Of 44 wards within the GTA, please correct me if I'm wrong, 11 are occupied by women, and the youngest councillor being Michael Ford. This lack of equal representation of age and gender within municipal politics affects the relationships between members of the public, and loses the trust of the youth population. The individuals who took part in my short survey, as mentioned before, share the same idea of the type of leader they felt that could not only take over the rest of the term, but create new meaningful relationships with the constituents of Ward 44. I'm here today because I know I am a leader that Ward 44 needs to enable the progression and to build that trust and support with not only Ward 44, however, with those surrounding the area. I'm currently the city youth councillor of Ward 41, where which I've actually used as a platform to familiarize myself with the setting of politics. I'm currently working with other youth councillors in developing potential new policies which will increase inclusivity of all bodies within the GTA. Policies which would increase the trust and relationship between the youth population and be viewed as a great political move by the council in appointing a youth to office. I've created my own eco-initiatives and my own eco-team to contribute to the sustainability of our beautiful city, something that late Councillor Ron Moiser was dedicated to. The waterfront and Rouge Park is personally held highly to me because of the memories I've grown and witnessed in that area. I applaud Councillor Ron Moiser for his motive that not only keeps the GTA public spaces clean, but for the sustainability and protection of these environments. I'm working closely with the Toronto Police, creating the Toronto Police First Use Advisory Board to ensure that the City of Toronto is well balanced and all avenues and public spaces preserved. I've spoken to officers who patrol Ward 44, and they too can agree that perseverance of these public spaces do a whole lot in the neighborhood. Scarborough East will not be a challenge for me, rather a door to open up my dedication to Scarborough and what I believe the future of leadership looks like. If appointed to office, I will have an open door policy for certain months in the year, another great political move which I feel like will be praised. Like I said, I'm a citizen, so I know what we want from the councillors, what we think would be really cool. Finding new and existing ways to grow and extend the relationship between my constituents would be the top priority on my agenda, because I believe that we oftentimes forget our wards until it's time for re-election. We got to be able to really meet with residents and really just to have a great connection with them. Time is essential, so with the remaining term ending in November 2018, I plan to demonstrate that goodwill, knowledge, and accountability for all residents.
Can you please wrap it up?
I'm wrapping it up ASAP. And will represent all age groups, genders, and religions. I believe the selection of councillors should not be judged based off experience, but motive and passion. Some of the greatest jobs were created through observation and determination. The biggest investments through chances to an open mind. Ending statement. To the amazing candidates who are just as determined as I am to sustain Scarborough East Ward 44, I give you my prayers, and I hope this message penetrates deeply with all councillors. Thank you for your time, and please choose wisely.
Councillor Shan. Question?
You get a little bit more time.
I need patience.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to ask the same question about the festival and the Confederate flag incident. Can you?
Well, like most of the candidates, I'm pretty sure we can all agree that, you know, here in Toronto, we're very diverse. So there are certain things that we will take in a certain way. You know, seeing that type of flag, it may bring about certain emotions, certain theories to most people. Just because, like I said, here in Toronto, we're diverse and we accept everybody and we take things for what they are. And of course, that flag has more of a deeper history to it. For me, I feel like if I was in that position, I wouldn't be quick to judge. Like everyone else said, you don't really know anybody's intentions, right? You don't know if it was actually something that was meant to annoy or something that was just meant to say, this is how we think and this is our theory, we don't care what anybody says. It could have just been something hard, like for the person who put it up, it may have just been like, just really, really harmless, you know what I mean? So the least I can do, honestly, is, talk to the leaders there, talk to the organizers, and bring up the concerns. Say, you know what, some people are not feeling comfortable with this. What's the motive behind it? You know what I mean? But you don't want to come off too too aggressive at the same time, because you have to be understanding. In everything that you do, you have to apply understanding. You have to be open-minded and, just get a conclusion from then.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
We have one more question. Councillor Perks?
Thank you. In the event that council appoints you to this position, would you be willing to make a commitment not to run for re-election?
Not for city council, but for parliament, yes.
Okay, Madam Clerk?
Pencho Penev is next.
Okay, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you all. Good afternoon, Madam Speaker, dear Mayor Ford, dear councillors, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Pen Penev, and I am resident in Ward 43 since 1988. I had the fortune to meet Ron Moser a number of times, and I got a glimpse or more of his vision for Ward 44, Scarborough, and City of Toronto. I can say I feel privileged to continue his legacy for the remaining of the term, if appointed by you, to alleviate the transitional uncertainty as I see is in place. In a way I see there is 3 areas of work to be done in the next 1.5 years. The first area is in Ward 44. The first item in order is to complete the Port Union Road second northbound line toward Highway 41. To facilitate the modification of TRCA's waterfront project by minimizing the urbanization of the shoreline segment within Ward 44 and Ward 43 by possible coordination among them. To address the High Creek rooming housing issues by adopting sensible yet fair approach, and more, like work with the youth to rediscover the new opportunities to get involved in sports and environmental protection. The second area of work will be with you, fellow councillors, as follows: to continue to seal and heal the perceived fractured lines between the left and right, an effort well underway under Mr. John Tory's leadership. To help to achieve consensus on the most polarizing issues by re-establishing counseling as a real conciliatory process through principled compromises. I see it as an opportunity to maintain robust functionality in the City Council in Toronto. The third area, the way I see it, will be to look at the possibility to help further developing Toronto as a world-class city, as a city of heart and sensitivities toward land, water, and air we all inherited from the good guardians, the people before, whom descendants are among us. Guiding principle serving this objective is the principle of inclusiveness of all. Thank you. And I feel I have a time briefly to voice my submission, which I think wasn't seen. This is my professional and personal biography at glance. I am born in Bulgaria. I immigrated to Canada in 1983 and became a citizen of Canada in 1988. I have graduated as a radio electronics engineer in Sofia, Bulgaria back in 1980. I worked as an engineer and specialist in Bulgarian Academy of Science, had a few patents back then, married here in Canada for Lady Vozis, and began working as on my specialty, my own company PSR system back in 1985. I worked as service technician at Bay Blue Radio from 1986 to 1988, worked as medical equipment service technician at Diamet at 1988, worked as quality control inspector at Philips Electronics from 1988 to 1992. I established PSR Systems, a systems integration company, computers, 1992 to 2010, And recently like 7 years ago, I upgraded PSR systems to consultancy from 2010 to present. More importantly, I would like to emphasize my community social activity, even though I wouldn't imply that I have extensive government and municipal experience. However, I volunteered as an executive producer for Bulgarian Voice, Chin FM multicultural radio program back in 1988. Participated in the community-based research group Save the Toronto Bluffs as a consulting engineer and diver with 30 years diving experience. This group was founded as a response to the wind turbines offshore project, and I was involved from 2009 till the moratorium success on the project in 2013.
Can you please wrap it up? Your 5 minutes is up.
A few more items, and I'm over. Initiated the solar park project in conjunction with Everbright, local electrical company, was rejected from council.
Thank you. Your 5 minutes is up. Thank you. Councillor Fletcher, you have a question?
Yes, I'll just ask if council should appoint you, would you be going to put your name in to run again in 2018 in the municipal election?
No.
No.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, members, that was the end of our list. But to ensure that all candidates have the opportunity to address City Council, the clerk will call out the names of the candidates who have not spoken yet in the event they may have arrived. Madam Clerk?
Kami Ganeshathan. Mohammed Shabani. Walayat Khan. Mukhail Mark Balak. David Mitchelson. Muhammad Siddiqui. Mujib Khan. Curtis Smith. Dominic Kubelis. Tatiana Kuzminik. Mohammed Mirza.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, at this point, do any members of council wish to speak at this time? Please put your name under request to speak. You have 5 minutes. Councillor Ainslie.
You asked for questions.
Sorry?
Councillor Ainslie.
I put it up there. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I won't be too long. Sorry, how long do I have? 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
All right, I won't be taking the whole 5 minutes. So, Madam Speaker, I'm the councillor for Ward 43. I represent the area which is immediately adjacent to Ward 44. I actually live on just inside Ward 44. I interact with a lot of my neighbours all the time. I speak with residents. Unfortunately, the late Councillor Moser was ill a lot over the past couple of years, and residents reached out to my office for help. And when I looked at the qualities that I was trying to decide on who would make the best candidate today or the best appointee for Ward 44, I looked at, first and foremost, Ward 44 urgently needs immediate attention. The length of this appointment isn't very long. The next election's in the fall of 2018. I think our last scheduled council meeting is in August of 2018. Ward 44 needs somebody that they already know, trust, and respect to do the job, to represent them here in City Hall. And it's also vital that the councillor that we appoint today knows Ward 44 very well. And once I reviewed all of those qualities that we need in somebody that we're going to appoint today, I'm going to be supporting David Signacki. I know David very well. I know that most of you know that from 2001 to 2006, I worked for David as his executive assistant. as you heard earlier from David's comments, that prior to just after amalgamation, he also represented Ward 44 as the councillor, because at that time, many of the wards were shared between two councillors. So it was himself and Councillor Moser that were doing a lot of the work. He already knows and he's trusted and respected by the residents in Ward 44. Over the past couple of months, residents have been reaching out to me, and I've talked to my neighbors. They're very happy with David. They've even reflected back on some of the work that he did when he was a city councillor in early 2000, when he was looking after this area, trying to look after this area. They appreciated his work, the quality of the work that he did. Most of the questions and a lot of the comments that were made by the deputants today talk about a lot of the larger issues. There's issues around U of T Scarborough campus. They're in the midst of, about to embark on a $3 billion capital infrastructure program. There's comments about Port Union Road, which is one of the major thoroughfares from now Pickering down to the Rouge GO train station for people that can't get into the GO trains in Durham. It's becoming a major transit area. There's the waterfront. All of those are very important issues, and they're looked at sometimes not just by Councillor Moser, but I also get feedback on what the community wants to see there. But I think when it comes down to it, what the residents in Ward 44 want is the personal representation that takes care of their concerns on an individual basis. It's not always the big picture projects that people are concerned about. It's that care that they know their community is going to get looked after and their concerns that are going to get looked after. And I know that for working for David Signacki for 5 years, and the feedback that I've received from my residents, in Ward 44, that remember the work that he did on their behalf, that I think he's the best candidate that we can appoint today, and that I ask for your support, as I'm going to support David Signacki to be appointed today. Thank you.
Councillor Fletcher.
Well, Speaker, to all those great candidates that came today and put their names forward and gave us their 5 minutes and talked about themselves and their hopes and dreams for Ward 44 and for the city as a whole, I just want to say it was very nice to meet you all. And hearing what you had to say reminds me of what a great city we have, because we have great residents like you. So thank you to everybody who put their name in. You'll notice that I was asking a question pretty regularly, which was, if you were appointed, would you put your name in for the actual election, 2018? And that actually is a pretty important question for me and perhaps for other councillors, because one of the things that I believe in quite strongly, and others may as well, is that giving someone an appointment to this very difficult and great job that we have here in this circle shouldn't give anyone an advantage in the upcoming election in 2018. It shouldn't give anybody a leg up so that they get appointed here and then they're automatically running for re-election. So for me, that's one of the decision points. So for those who really clear, didn't say I will not be running in the 2018 election, I just wanted to let you know that that's one of the reasons why I can't consider your appointment. I will tell you a little story about Peter Leon, who is Ward 5. He took an appointment when Peter Milchin went to the legislature, and he promised us, he said, I will not run. After he was here for a year, a lot of people said, Peter, we love you. You have to run. We love you. You're so good. You have to run. And oh, sorry, it was in Peter. Sorry, it was in Councillor Holliday's seat.
Ward
My
3.
apology. Ward 3, not Ward 5. But those residents in your ward, Councillor Holliday said, we love you, Peter. We want you to stay representing us. And it was very hard for Peter. He was Councillor Peter Leon because he loved the job. But he had made a commitment, and he said, my word is good, and I have to live up to my word. So I just wanted to explain that to everyone who is here, and the importance of that for me in making a decision. But I also think the good news for those of you who had such great ideas, you're so motivated, you want to serve, is that that election isn't very far away. And you can get out there and get out knocking on those doors and get started, because October 18, we're going to have a municipal election. So again, very nice to meet all of you here today, all of the great people from Scarborough. Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Fletcher. Councillor Shan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also want to thank all the candidates who made it here. You know, usual job interviews, you get a particular time for half an hour and you show up and you get out of there. And here you are in the morning trying to figure out when the order would be and so on. So thank you for patiently waiting on this, and thank you for your passion and the ideas that you shared. I'm a Scarborough councillor, so I'm very much invested in trying to help make this decision, but also, as I had done earlier, I would have preferred a by-election method where the residents themselves would have chosen their candidate. But here I am taking that responsibility. I also made sure that I had not decided or had indicated who I support ahead of this, because it's a process that we want to hear from everybody to be here to give your points of view. I think the question about whether the person would run again or not is a very important question, as Councillor Fletcher mentioned. I know some councillors feel we don't have jurisdiction over that particular matter, but as we hear from most of these items and what people say, we have no jurisdiction over the implementation of any of the things that people say anyways, because it's up to them to do it. But we ask those questions because we want to make sure we make this as fair as possible. We make sure that our participation in this does not hinder the democracy that's yet to come. Today there will be, unfortunately, only one person chosen out of the many of you. I hope many of you will consider running in 2018 to bring that democratic participation level high in the ward. I ran alongside 28 fabulous candidates bringing ideas together, and that always is the best thing to happen in our neighborhoods. Now, my question that people saw me repeatedly asking is about race relations in this city. It's one of the biggest challenges in the city. We don't have the council reflecting our racial diversity in our council seats. So it's important for us to take those matters seriously. I understand that the Confederate flag could have gotten there by mistake or by error, but it's important when somebody races as impacted as the woman did, it should have been taken seriously, it should have been dealt with it. The woman should have not had to go to many people to figure out who to complain and then lose her temper as a result of the kind of pain she was going through. And which is obviously, the behavior is not something I'm justifying, but I'm saying that should have been dealt better. In fact, so what my point was to try to figure out what are the ways we can help a festival to acknowledge that Confederation flag was wrong to be there, and to acknowledge and say sorry for it, but to say that the mistake was made would be corrected by X, Y, and Z. That is the best way we can have this situation resolved. So I think it is very, very important for councillors, even if they are not from racialized background, getting onto this role, to see the pain that people go through when they see freedom of expression is not always allowed when it comes to hate. Freedom of expression, when it promotes hate, is hate speech. It's not freedom of expression. So it's important for us to consider that. Now, the last thing I want to say is that it is very important for me to have somebody who lives in the ward, unless that person has extensive amount of work-related or a community involvement in that ward that supersedes some of the residency requirement. But if somebody does not have that adequate amount of exposure to that ward, the residency of that ward becomes an important thing, because everything that happens around you gets impacted. You are impacting policies that are going to impact you yourself as a homeowner or a tenant, as well as your neighbors. So it is an important consideration to have. So in closing, I want to say it's been a fabulous day, just as one of the gentlemen who spoke so passionately about the impact today has had on him. I want to say it's been fabulous listening to Scarborough residents talk about their passion and their issues. And it's important that we spend one full day talking about Scarborough's priorities in this Council of Chamber, which would have not happened. It's a silver lining to this appointment process that we have had this time, talking about what Scarborough residents want and what Scarborough representatives who you represent various forms of the places. So thank you very much for your time. I'm looking forward to making the decision. I will definitely look at equity. We are, as a city, committed to employment equity. So as a body that's trying to make this decision, I hope the employment equity policies will also be in our mind as we make this decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Burnside.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm going to be very quick. So I know there were councillors who were looking forward to having an election for one reason or another, or for many reasons. I didn't think we should go that way. But really what's been happening here is sort of a mini election within council, today being the all candidates meeting. The reality is people like elections and they like it when someone knocks on their door. They want to see the candidate's demeanor. They want to ask the tough questions privately. They want to know that the candidate cares enough to get out and knock on the door. I know the mayor might be concerned, well, is concerned about the larger city issues. His campaign was based on the larger city issues. But we know the reality for local councillors is it's local issues, right? How is that candidate or is that councillor going to make the call back? I can tell you, Scarborough Subway, Gardiner Expressway, however you would vote, great, thank you very much. But most people that are voting locally for their councillor want to know how he or she stands on local issues. So today, I looked at all the candidates. I had actually made my mind up, like most people do, before the all candidates meeting. And how I made my mind up was based on who actually reached out to me. And I don't mean a mass email that says, hey, if you want more information, call me. I would never do that in an election. I mean the person or the people, male or female, who called me and said, hey, I'd like to talk. Do you have questions? Out of the 48, I made sure that my staff were on top of this. 4 reached out directly to me. 2 I never got a chance to speak to. I called back, and 1 I did, and then 2 I spoke to. I looked at all their resumes, but those were the only 4 candidates who actually spoke to me or were going to give me that opportunity to question them, much like the local electorate would do in the ward. And for me, the best candidate, hands down, was Mr. Hart. So he's the one that, sorry. Jim. What's that? I said that. I said Hart. Yeah. Mr. Don't mess with me. I was just doing a graduation, and but so Jim Hart, he actually called me. He hunted me. Well, I'll say tracked me down. Had a conversation. I was non-committal, but he was polite. He gave me the opportunity, and that's what I want to see in a candidate. Someone that actually made the effort to reach out to me. That's who I would want to work with. And I'm very confident that the people in the ward would want him as their representative. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor De Beermaker.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. And I, like some of my colleagues before me, recognize that what we're doing today is actually bypassing the democratic process. This council made a decision not to have an election. I was one of the people who voted for that, and I think for some very good reasons, and the fact that it's only about a year in advance, and again, I felt maybe having an election gives an unfair advantage to 2 or 3 people out of the 48 or so that came forward today who were better organized, better prepared, better financed, and better connected to political parties. So we made a decision to bypass the democratic process. We made the decision to say local voters will not decide who they're going to vote for, but we're going to make that decision on their behalf to have a representative in that seat for the next year. And I think that's a very important and a responsibility that shouldn't be taken lightly. I will not vote for any councillor who does not live in the ward. I have a couple of excellent candidates here today from my ward, Ward 38. They are amazing people. One of them, I think, is still here. They're spectacular. But they're not the right people, unfortunately, for the people living in Ward 44. When we have an election, there are many reasons why you vote for a person. Yes, where they live, that's one factor. The candidate's experience, the professional training, their electoral platform, their personality, whether they knocked on your door. There's a broad range of reasons why people vote. But certainly being a local candidate is the norm, is something that people feel is important. For me, I think that people in Ward 44 for the next year, they should be able to meet their local councillor at the local grocery store because the person lives in the ward down the street from them. People in Ward 44 should be able to say hi to the local councillor when they see them at the local gas station because they go to the same gas pumps. They should be able to bump into the local councillor while they're going for a walk in the local park because they live in the same community. They should see their local councillor at the local library because they go to the same library. They should be able to ask their local councillor questions when they see them at the local community centre, and they should be able to give the councillor some free advice when they see the local councillor at the local flower shop. If you don't live in the ward, if you live in my ward in Ward 38, you're not going to have those day-to-day Jane Jacob moments where you're getting off a bus and you bump into one of your neighbors. So I think for this 12-month period, this is a very important consideration for me. I also think that we should not be giving this position to anybody who is going to either further their political career or even have the perception of having their political career furthered. If, when we appoint somebody, we know what's going to happen. There'll be a year in the public eye. There's potential opportunities to further one's political agenda, if you have one. There's a year to make a name for yourself, if that's what one wishes to do. And of course, there's the increased profile that comes with being a city councillor. I think, like the excellent choice we made with Peter Leon, we should have a person that is not going places, is not looking for future appointments or running for positions, but they're there to do a good job. And that's why certainly I will be supporting Jim Hart. I think many of us on this council know him. He's a wonderful civil servant. He's got 30 years of experience in this building, both in the Parks Department, licensing and standards, all the way down to the Garbage Department, where he first started off 3 decades ago. And so I look at Mr. Hart. He lives in the ward. He has years and years, decades of municipal experience. He's got great working relationships with all of the people on this council that he's worked with. He has the endorsement of Heather Moser. Councillor Moser's life partner and his political partner is here today, and I thank her for being here today. She has endorsed that person, is saying this is the person who will represent and take care of local Ward 44 residents. Councillor Moser couldn't say that himself today, but I think if he was here, that's what he would be saying. And when Heather Moser says this is the person for Ward 44, I take a lot of stock to that. I also look at the letters of support coming in from Professor Roy Leslie, who's the president of the Rouge Valley Optimist Club, to Blair Anderson and David Adamson, president of Highland Creek. These are well-known individuals that have lifelong service in that area. They're all pointing to Jim Hart, and so I'd like to conclude by saying my heart is with Jim Hart, and I hope that you'll all vote for Mr. Hart. And that is not a campaign slogan.
Thank you, Councillor de Bearmaker. Councillor Ford.
I think Councillor de Bearmaker wrapped up a student council speech right there. I felt like that was pretty good. No, a compliment. That was great. Through you, Madam Speaker, I'm the last one to speak on. Through you, Madam Speaker, I'll be very brief. A lot of my thought process and what I wanted to say has been said. Not knowing any of the candidates and seeing them here today, I think they all have tremendous qualities. They all care about our city as a whole. They care about Scarborough East even more passionately, and you can see that. So thank you for everyone for coming out. When it boils down for me is to look back at the democratic process. And in 2014, the residents of Scarborough elected Councillor Moser to sit here. Unfortunately, that term could not be fulfilled, and Council decided to do an appointment process. The last person I guess one of the people that worked for Ron was Jim Hart. And he represented Ron at community meetings with stakeholders and doing the job that a lot of our staff help us do, but probably taking even more of that burden to do that. So having his experience on staff as a senior member of our staff, the general manager of PFNR, knowing the community, committing to continuity, to keeping the staff. I think that's very important until the 2018 general election, where it's up to the residents to choose who they want. but I think this is the best path forward for the residents in the meantime. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Speaker. First of all, Speaker, I'd like to thank everyone who came out today and offered their services, not just to the residents of Ward 44, but to the residents of the City of Toronto. I was very impressed, Speaker, with the caliber of the candidates who spoke to us today. But I have to say, though, that I'm puzzled. I sit on the Civic Appointment Committee, and that's the committee that looks at or appoints people to the various agencies, boards, and commissions of the city. And what I've noticed over the years, Speaker, is how few people apply to these committees from Scarborough. And I think that's a shame, because as all of us can see here today, there's an impressive array of talent in Scarborough. And I would hope that the people who that came here today, who didn't get the appointment, but still have this desire to give back to the city and to serve others, will take my words under advice. Scarborough doesn't punch its weight right now in these agencies, boards, and commissions, but as you see, it certainly has the ability to do that.
Thank you. Councillor Cressy.
Thank you, Speaker, and let me begin just by thanking and commending, like many of my colleagues already have, everybody who came out, spoke, and put your name forwards. It is never easy to put yourself forward. Whether you're an old hand at this or this is the first time, to stand in front of others, to speak on behalf of your views and to seek to represent others, it takes a lot of work. And I want to commend all those who have done that here today. And I do hope, as Councillor Shan mentioned, that many of you do run for this seat in a year and a half's time, because I would be proud to work with many of you. There are many strong candidates, and for me, this came down to a choice between two. That was somebody I knew very well and somebody I did not, and that is Jim Hart or David Sognacki. While many of my colleagues have spoken highly of Jim Hart, and I've heard it reinforced here today, and I was impressed, I don't know Jim. And so while if he is selected, I look forward to serving with him, I don't know him. I do know David Sognacki. And in my experience with David Sognacki, he has at all times, always and without exception, been principled. He has worked hard. He has treated people with respect, and he's experienced. And he also knows Scarborough. And so while I could work with many and would look forward to working with many people in this chamber, my support is for David Sognacki. And that's in spite of the fact that David and I don't agree on everything. In fact, there are many issues that we do disagree on. But the point of City Hall, in my estimation, is not to find somebody who you agree with, but somebody who you can work well with. And for me, I know that is David Sognacki, and it very well may be others. But for me, I know that. And so the factors in a decision for me, certainly, who won't run again, that is clear. While it is ideal for somebody to live in their ward, that is ideal. I live in Ward 20 and I represent Ward 20. It is not a requirement. And I'd ask you to ask yourselves, not everybody in this chamber lives in the ward they represent. And so sometimes living in the ward, while it may be ideal, it does become an argument of political convenience, especially for those of you who don't live in the ward but now will use it as a reason not to select somebody else who doesn't live in a ward. And so finally, I'm looking for someone who will serve Scarborough well in the city. And with that, whoever is selected, I'm confident they will serve Scarborough and the city well. I look forward to working with whoever it is. My support is for David Sognacki. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Matlow.
Madam Speaker, first of all, I want to commend so many of the residents who are here today who wanted to serve and wanted to fulfill Councillor Moser's term and represent his constituents. And I want to begin by acknowledging that the reason that we're here today is because we lost a friend and a colleague. And I know that we all wish Councillor Moser's family and friends our very best wishes. This must be an incredibly difficult day for them, and I just want to acknowledge that because it should be said. I think that Mr. Hart, along with many of the other candidates today, seem to be very well-meaning, decent, and experienced people who, no matter who we choose, would contribute a lot to this council, and I don't think we're going to lose today. No matter what, I don't think we're going to lose today. I think that Ward 44 will benefit from a strong representative to complete the term. So that way, I'm very pleased. What I'm not pleased about is what I see has happened over the past weeks and perhaps past days with respect to Mr. Signacki. David Signacki is from my experience, somebody who has remarkable integrity, demonstrates a commitment and a dedication to fact-based policy making and decision making. His experience here would contribute so much to be able to hit the ground running so quickly, to be able to ensure that the residents of Ward 44, who he knows so well, would be represented from day one moving forward to Election Day. We know we could count on him. We know that he understands our processes, our procedural bylaws, our committee structure. We know that he would literally be able to come in and do the job. We know that he has taken on a lot of incredibly important priorities, such as the Transformational Task Force, and he'd like to see some of that work through to fruition. I just see him as an honest, genuine, sincere person who we'd all benefit from working with. And I look forward to working with him, whether it be in this incarnation or another, because I just really like him and I really respect him, and I just know that we'd be a better place if he was here. So I hope that you support him today. What I've seen, though, in the past little while, though, is that, well, as Mr. Signacki mentioned earlier, he actually did believe that, if he was going to put his name out there and put himself in the line for the residents of Ward 44 and for us, that he would want to know that there was some reasonable expectation that there might be some welcoming reception. And he was told that by many members. In fact, he had a belief that there would be a lot of welcome for him. And there has been an effort by some to pull that rug from under him. And that's just plain politics. And there have been suggestions, one thing is about, where he lives. Another is that he'll be a threat to the mayor. You know my position on the Scarborough Transit debate. David has been very clear he does not intend to relitigate that, whether I like that or not. He never wanted to be a threat to anybody here. He actually wanted to work very well with the mayor and with members of council. He wants to contribute in a positive way. He wants to see major policy initiatives through to fruition, and most importantly, represent and work with the residents of Ward 44 every single day on those little and big issues that are important to them. That's why he wants to be here. This was somebody who has done very well for himself. He's really just here in a more altruistic way in public service. He's not intending to run for anything at council in the next term. He just wanted to come and help. That's all he wanted to do. And the way that he was treated was basically like just a threat that needed to be rid of. And that's just an awful way to treat somebody who wanted to come forward and help. I'm not naming names. I'm just saying for those who know that you were part of that, look in the mirror. Like, that's not the way we should be treating each other. For those who want to run for re-election, maybe we can be better at next term of council if those of us who are here today are here tomorrow. And maybe we can treat each other better. And for those of you who intend to run in the next election for Ward 44 or elsewhere, let's try to be civil with each other. Let's try to have positive debates and not do things like what I've seen happen to Mr. Signacki. And the last thing I'll just mention is that if you did give your word to him that you would support him, and you're about to change that, forget the politics. Just give that some thought to.
Thank you. Councillor Holliday to speak.
Thank you, Speaker. been listening to the debate, and I just want to thank all of the incredibly high caliber people that came out to speak to us today. Really impressive resumes. It makes me feel really small listening to some of the accomplishments that many of you have achieved. But what we're here deciding today is not a councillor. We're deciding the councillor for Ward 44. What I mean by that is many have presented a compelling case as to why they would make a great councillor. But what this council here, this committee that is meeting right now, needs to figure out who the councillor is going to be. We heard from a former councillor. We heard from a former member of Parliament, somebody that's seasoned in politics. But I have to gauge my decision on what is best for the residents of 44. One candidate stands out, that's Jim Hart. And the reason I say that is there's an engineering term, time to live, or latency. This is an individual that has been doing the job for a great number of months, a long time. And I know he's been on leave, as he said in his speech, for 2 weeks, but he can walk back in the office tomorrow or Monday or whenever the rules permit, pick up the last file that he was working on without even a coating of dust on it, and continue the work that's going on in that ward. I can tell you, I can attest, and some of you may have forgotten this, that when you're elected as a new councillor, there is time it takes to kickstart the office, to get familiar with the people, to redevelop the call lists, to get moving on everything. And that time can take months, weeks, quite a period of time. And I do believe that we just cannot provide the level of service. We always think about the fun policy speeches that we make in this downtown council, but the real bread and butter, the real reason why we're here is to serve our constituents and to solve the day-to-day matters that matter most to them. I think because of Jim's position, and Jim comes with a long resume, we heard even one candidate acknowledge that he is a fantastically qualified person for this. He is the best position to offer continuous service to the people in that ward and can get started right on day one at full capacity at 100%. That's the next 16 months. That's the window that we're looking at. I hope you'll give that some consideration as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carroll?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I was guilty of using earphones like your average baseball fan, sitting at a wedding listening to a game on headphones. I spent the morning at my grandson's graduation listening to this council session on my headphones. And I have to say to the applicants for this appointment, I was confused all morning as to why we were asking again and again whether or not you intend to run in the 2018 election, because we have no legislative right to constrain you from doing so. And it's a good thing, too, Madam Speaker, because we heard dynamic speeches from all of these people. I hope that wherever that you will step up. I hope the men won't take offense when I say I was particularly pleased to hear dynamic women coming forward and speaking so passionately and so credibly about our community and Ward 44 in particular. We still have a goal. We still have a goal of making sure that we're meeting the UN goal for women in government. So I heard great people, and I don't need to know if you would be running in 2018, because I certainly hope you do. Other than that, Madam Speaker, other than thanking the applicants, I only rise to say to Jim Hart, a bureaucrat that I worked with many times in his time in our public service, that I hope you will forgive me and you will remember that for me, Councillor Soknacki, former Councillor Soknacki, is a mentor. Absolutely my mentor. In my first term, the very next day after being elected, I was having a conversation with my local MPP, David Kaplan, and I said, well, I've got a call at 8:30 in the morning, and the mayor wants me to be on the budget committee. I don't know if I should go on the budget committee. I was kind of hoping to avoid budget committees. And he said, absolutely go on the Budget Committee. You want to be. You will learn everything you ever needed to know about the city, and you will meet every single person in the public service that you need to know. Absolutely go on the Budget Committee. I don't think David Kaplan knew when he said that, that he was setting me up, not just to know that superficially by sitting in the room, but under David Soknaki's tutelage. I learned so much about this operation in 3 years. There were shorter terms in those days, and I learned so much just from sitting on his Budget Committee about every facet of this organization. And when by the end of the term I was saying to people that he was a mentor to me, they said, but he's conservative. He's conservative. You're not conservative. It shouldn't be about that. It should be about the city. It should be about the knowledge we gain here. And it should be about building consensus around everything we do in this room. And that's what I learned from him. And that's what today I sometimes see lacking here. And so I hope Jim will forgive me. My vote is going to be for my mentor and someone I know to be a consensus builder inside this velvet rope again and again. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Speaker. I must say I have been through 3 appointment processes, and I have to say I think this has been the most difficult of those that I've participated in. And it's because I do know well both of the 2 top choices, Jim Hart and David Soknaki. I think it's also very difficult because we had before us an incredible array of voices from Ward 44 and other places, but Scarborough East, many of whom represent the underrepresented groups around this circle. And we have a policy, both in our public appointments policy, in our employment equity policy, to attempt to have decision makers in the City of Toronto reflect the diversity of our city. And so of the candidates here today, Dr. Cassie Hawk, I know well too. And he has made incredible contributions to the Bangladeshi community, the South Asian community broadly. And I wanted, I'm sorry, Cassie, to vote for Dr. Hawk. But in light of the shortness of this term and the ability to get up to speed quickly, as many have said, I will be supporting Jim Hart. Now, the choice has been difficult to me. I made no commitments to anyone before coming into this circle, and I believed it was important to listen to the speeches and give every candidate here a fair chance and a fair hearing. And the reason that I have chosen Jim, and many of you have reflected these reasons up to this point, and that is experience. He understands the city well. He's a good problem solver. He understands the role of the bureaucracy versus the elected officials. He knows Ward 44 extremely well. He's committed to his community. He knows the city broadly, too. So on the big city issues, he understands those as well. I think, though, that for me, Jim, as we go into these very difficult discussions over the next several months about what we value in this city and what we're going to do when we have difficult decisions about public services, he has been and consistently, I believe, will continue to be a strong defender of public services. When Jim talks to you about what he loves about his community or what he loves about the city, there's no doubt that he talks about services to kids, children and youth and sports and our public spaces and making sure that our city is a good place to live for everyone, everyone. He understands that we have to build a city that provides opportunities for everyone. And so, Jim, I know one of the concerns that I might have about how he is going to prevail today because I do believe there has been lobbying, I think Jim will be an independent voice. And one of the important things around this place is whether or not you're prepared to take an independent position on issues. And I think that Jim will. He's got a lot of integrity, and he believes strongly and has deep values in everything that he does. Now, many of the things I have just said about Jim, I could say absolutely about David Soknacki. David has been, as Councillor Carroll pointed out, identified as a conservative and had played the role during the years that he was here as a financial, as the budget chief, and gave priority to the financial challenges of this corporation, but never did David do that in a way that sacrificed services, and always recognized that building a great city meant making sure that we provided for everyone. A city of diversity and a city of prosperity go hand in hand, and I know that David Soknacki absolutely believes that as well. So it's been a difficult choice, but I will be supporting Jim Hart for this position. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perks.
Thank you, Speaker. I'll only take a moment. I just wanted to first begin by acknowledging the remarkable group of people that we have here in front of us. In fact, at one point I was noticing we heard from roughly the same number of people up there as there are down here, and I thought, if there was a swap, I think the city would still be in good hands. I feel very confident and comfortable about the future of Toronto's democracy, that so many people with such obvious gifts and passion took an entire day off work or off whatever else they were doing to come down and bring us thoughtful, optimistic, hopeful views on what could be done both locally and citywide to replace Councillor Moser. As many of my colleagues have said, I'm really struggling with this. I sincerely believe I heard from a dozen people today who, if they were on the floor of this council, would improve the tone, improve the tenor, improve the quality, the thoughtfulness of the work we do here. And I feel wrong that I have to just pick one. And I want to remind colleagues that we're picking someone for about 18 months. You know, and I grew up in Toronto when the council term was 2 years. I think it's wrong that we are picking for the people of Ward 44 who represents them. I said when we were considering whether to do an appointment or a by-election that we should never tell people who represents them, they should always tell us. And I still believe that. And I believe that if this group of people had gone out to a town hall run by the local residents associations and put their views forward, a great many of them would have won over quite a few voters, and it would have been a very close contest. I'm not going to speak to who I'm selecting and why. I just wanted it on the record that with this much talent willing to represent Ward 44, I really do think we should have left it in the hands of the residents of Ward 44.
Thank you. Councillor Wong-Tam.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I do appreciate the opportunity to speak, and also just to express my gratitude as well for the candidates who've put their names forward today. You certainly have not made the job easy, and you've shown us how deep the talent is for those who are seeking to serve the communities in Scarborough. In particular, I want to thank three candidates who really their skills were highlighted for me. Cheryl, Thilakan, as well as Patience. You spoke from your heart. It was really clear to me that we want to see you. I mean, I would like to see you running for City Council in 2018. And in some ways, it's probably a good thing that you may not be appointed to this chamber today, because we want you here for more than the 18 months. I have had the opportunity to work with Jim Hart. He is an exceptional public servant, and he has served our communities and the city extremely well. And I want to express my thanks to him for putting his name forward. And I think we all thanked Jim when he was retiring, and we thought he was too young to retire at that time. We would have been happy to keep him as GM of Parks. But I also want to rise and thank David Soknacki for taking the time to come back to the chambers. I realized that he was in a very comfortable position, having pretty much retired from his political career. I would say that it would be, in some ways, perhaps a loss to council if we don't reappoint him, even if it's for a short period of time. I asked the question, it was my only question today, regarding the long-term financial plan, the strategies for the city, how to manage the revenue tools as that debate comes before us. And I actually think that's really important that we have a strong fiscal-minded, budget-minded person in the seat of Ward 44, representing not just Ward 44, but all of City Council as well, as that discussion moves forward. And David is a fiscal conservative. I am a progressive, but one thing I have learned about him in our conversations, that he is fair. He is extremely honest. He's a bit of a Boy Scout, and I think that he's a very fierce, independent person. I have tried to convince him to see things my way at times, and the conversations are always principled, always respectful, and we will sometimes part ways and say we won't necessarily agree, but I know I can always come back to him and have another conversation. During the mayoral campaign, I actually got to see the very best of David Soknacki. He had policy platforms coming out of every single possible direction, and they were really clearly articulated, extremely well thought out. And I'm actually very sorry that we didn't get to see some of those policies implemented, which is one of the reasons why I think that perhaps, one of the opportunities here is to not just have someone who's going to be a caretaker for the ward. I don't think that I want to be someone who just focuses on Ward 27 issues. I don't want any councillor to just focus on that particular issue. We want big city thinkers. We want people who are going to not just champion their local communities and the neighborhoods that they serve, but also be able to show up next week, be well-versed on the 1,000 items that we're going to have before us at the next council agenda meeting. And that person would be David Soknacki. He could be prepared to speak on every single item with intelligence, from a place of information and full, from a place of well-informedness, and be able to articulate that in a way that's going to help us in many, many ways. And he would still be able to do that while he's representing his local communities. And I would say that it would probably be that is what makes him so uniquely qualified for this particular appointment. I don't believe that there will be another candidate that's before us, out of the many that are before us today, that can actually do that. And I am very, very grateful that he put his name forward, as I am grateful for all the candidates. You've all been exceptional, and I would like to work with you at some point, whether it's in this chamber or within your community, in Ward 44 or on any other civic issues. You all represent the very best of Toronto. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perruzza.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I'm just going to speak very briefly, because I know you've had a long day, and I've only been here for a part of it. But I have to tell you, having witnessed the small part of the day that I did witness, it just reinforces why we should have elections, why you should let the people decide who it is that should be rightfully speaking for them. We wouldn't be here today if it had been just up to me, because I voted against this process. I voted to go to an election. I believe that Councillor Shan came in here the right way. He came in here in a by-election. No one questions, when he speaks to something or when he votes on something, that he has every right to do that, and he does it for the people he represents.
because he got elected by them. I believe Councillor Ford came in the right way. Came in an election. And ditto for him. Exactly that. However, we are here, and I know two of the individuals that put their names forward today. I don't know the others. Although I got to tell you, I was impressed by the short time that I was here, by some of the folks that came to the podium. Penn and Patience and Bobby and Karithika and Vito and Cheryl, all great. All of them going to go home, each and every one of them disappointed, and they're going to say to themselves, "What did I do that for?" I hope they get something from the experience that they will have had here today, and I hope they won't be disappointed by that. Make no mistake, we're not just talking about a caretaker. And by the way, if the person, I'm going to vote on one of the two individuals that have been talked about, either Jim Hart or David Suknaki. I don't know them well. I'm not on a personal level. I worked with both of them. I think that they would both make excellent representatives, but I don't want my saying who I'm going to vote for sway or influence anybody to vote the other way or one way or the other. I don't want that, because I would like for people to exercise some independence in that regard and make up their own minds, as I am going to make up my own mind. There's one other thing I want to say today. Actually, two other things I want to say.
I thought you were going to be brief.
One, if the person who gets the appointment promised not to run again, as far as I'm concerned, please, by all means, you love the job, you're going to do a great job, run again. It's a dumb thing for us to ask of you. We shouldn't be doing that. And I'm not going to presume in any way, shape, or form to have the arrogance to say that I'm going to give somebody a job for a year and a half because we had elected to go through this process, and then say to them, but please, you be sure you don't run again. I don't want to give you that unfair advantage. You're not just voting in or appointing somebody to a position where they're just going to be caretakers of a ward. They are going to come down here, and their vote is going to be critical and decisive on many of the big, important issues that are going to face all Torontonians. Make no mistake, the process today isn't about just electing a ward caretaker. It's politics. And I heard some people come to the podium earlier on and say, well, I'm not a politician. Well, yeah, I know you're not a politician, because I think the Webster's Dictionary defines it. You got to run in an election and get elected to be a politician. But that's what this job is. Once you get it, too bad, so sad, you become a politician because you get asked to make some very, very important and critical decisions. That's a fact.
He has 5 minutes.
So there was one other thing. So I wanted to make sure that I let that person off the hook as far as I'm concerned, and I'm not going to hold you to any commitment that you have made otherwise. I would never ask you to do that. I did want to say that, and they have now confused and 3, 2, time. There you go.
Councillor Peruzza, how can we believe you when you say you're going to speak briefly? Like, you lose the trust. Mayor Tory to speak.
Madam Speaker, I just want to, first of all, Councillor Kelly, I should get used to this, I guess. You have the experience all over the city, as I do, of going around and people come up to you with great anticipation, groups of young school children and so on, and say, are you Mayor John Tory? And I say, yes, and I'm kind of full of anticipation. They're going to have some question or other, and the only question they have is, do I know Norm Kelly? So when he gave most of the speech, but I want to repeat one thing he said. But before I do that, I want to just say, I think that the comments that have come up with respect to appointment versus election, we shouldn't relitigate that here. We had a vote of the City Council after quite a long debate. I would just say to those who feel that an appointment is wrong that you should put pressure on to change the law, because the law provides, and I'm assuming we all think the law is legitimate in that there's somebody put it there, and the law provides for an appointment or a by-election, and I think during my short time here we've had both. And as a result, we've obviously made our judgment collectively as a council that in one circumstance or another, I guess once or twice, an election was called for, and in another circumstance, an appointment was called for. And the reason I mention it is only for this reason. First of all, I believe that if we really feel so strongly that the law in providing for the possibility of an appointment is wrong, we should get it changed. And then I'd be quite happy if we had a law that just said, when a seat is vacant, you have a by-election and you have an arrangement similar to what they have federally or provincially, where if it's like 3 months away from the election, you just let the time run and the person gets elected at that time. The reason I raise it today is because we are now on the appointment process. We're about to make a choice, and I don't think it is fair that for in any way, and I don't think anybody did say this, but what you don't want to raise is the question of the legitimacy of that choice to be a full-fledged, effective, conscientious, et cetera, member of the council in good standing, because the law provided for what we're doing here today, and we've done it, and we're about to do it. I'm not going to comment on choices. I will cast my own vote in good faith, but I will just say it's a difficult choice to make, but I'll cast my vote in good faith, as everybody in this room, I think, will. The final thing I want to say, which is what Norm said, but I just was blown away by the people who applied and got up and spoke today. And I sort of was thinking exactly the same thing before Councillor Kelly spoke, which is that I haven't seen many of these names and resumes when it came to even the city appointments process, let alone running for or seeking public office. And I just hope that, you don't have to run. You can't win if you don't run. Somebody told me that early on. But you don't have to run. There are other ways to serve the public that are very, very important. And I hope that a number of you, even going away from this meeting, where we still do have a year left in the term of this council, will look at the ads that are published or look at the website and put your names forward for appointment, because I can assure you, for my sake, as one who gets one vote on these appointments, that I would be most interested in seeing many of you put your names forward for appointment. And in that regard, I do want to say that while somebody earlier on was sort of apologetic for referring to, I think it might have been Councillor Carroll, referring to the women involved, the fact is this council is not representative on the basis of gender, and it is not representative on the basis of diversity. And so I will say that both the dynamic women and the diverse people, men and women that came forward today, are people I hope that will, those who really think about it and choose to do so, will run. Just because we have some work to do here on making sure the council is more representative of the people that we serve. I thank you very much, all of you who are still here, for the fact that you took the trouble to apply, to come and speak, to answer questions. You did yourselves great credit. I think you did Ron Moser great credit, and you did the people of Ward 44 and the people of all of the City of Toronto great credit by taking part in this. And I think it was, as appointments go, it's not an election, but as appointments go, I think it's a process that we can be proud of, in that there were 48 people who came forward, who spoke, and who are going to be carefully considered in the next couple of minutes. So thank you very much to all of you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Okay. Members of council, I will now ask, we'll ring the bells. I will now ask the city clerk to instruct you on the balloting process. Councillor Mihevik, the clerk will explain the process.
Members, we will now proceed to the balloting for the appointment of the office of councillor for Ward 44, Scarborough East. There is one position to appoint. If the candidate who receives the greatest number of votes cast receives the votes of more than 1/2 of the members of council present and voting, I will declare the candidate to be elected. If the nominee with the most votes does not receive the votes of the majority of the members present, council will conduct another round of voting. The next ballot will exclude the nominees with the fewest votes and any nominee with no votes. Balloting will continue in this way until the candidate receiving the most votes also receives the majority of votes. If only 2 nominees remain and the votes for the 2 remaining nominees are tied, I will select the appointee by the following method. The names of each of the 2 remaining nominees will be placed on 2 sheets of paper of equal size, folded in half and placed in a box. And I will draw the name of one nominee from the box and declare that nominee to be the appointee. We are about to distribute the ballots for appointment to Ward 44 to you. The names of all candidates who have consented to accept the office of Ward 44, if appointed, will appear on the ballot, except those who have officially withdrawn, whether they appeared at this special meeting or not. Please indicate your vote by placing an X in the space provided to the right of the candidate of your choice. Please mark your ballot clearly and legibly. If I cannot determine your intention for any reason, including your handwriting, your ballot will be spoiled and not counted. You may only vote for one candidate. If you vote for more than one candidate, your ballot will be spoiled and your vote will not be counted. All members present must vote. If you do not vote for a candidate, your ballot will be spoiled. Secret ballots are prohibited by law. You must print your name and sign your ballot in the space provided. You will note that when the ballots are distributed, this is near the top of the ballot. If you do not print your name and sign the ballot, your ballot will be spoiled and your vote will not be counted. You must remain seated and silent during the voting process until all ballots have been collected. I will not begin the balloting process until all members have taken their seats. When you are finished voting, please fold your ballot in half and place it on the ledge in front of your desk for collection. We will collect the ballots when all members have finished voting. Members, please stay in your seats and we will conduct the voting process.
Yes, Councillor Matlow?
I just want to, Councillor DiCiano, are you okay with the process of the ballots?
Okay. Okay, please, members, No. Okay. Come on, we have to continue with this, please.
Yeah, but I got a point of order, Madam Speaker.
No.
Yeah. So just so I'm clear, my question is to City Clerk, who would by far have the most knowledge with respect to voting processes. You basically outlined the process that is not what was originally approved and yet then denied by City Council with respect to this ranked ballot system. Is that correct? This is a different voting method. Is that correct?
Councillor DiCiano, that's not a question.
I'm just asking if it is similar voting, if it is the same method that this council approved and then said no to. It's a very simple question.
No, this is a runoff process so that all of the votes are transparent at the end of each round, and the people who are casting their votes know exactly who is left on the ballot before the start of the next round.
Okay, thank you. Okay, members of council, please remain in your seats. They're not here. Sit down. Well, what? They're just they're not doing anything. Yeah. Okay. Okay, come on, members. Are you sure you want to be appointed? After listening to this? Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Fold your ballots in half.
Fold it in half.
Because that's what the clerk told us to do. I just do what I'm told.
Then that's too bad. Then he spoiled his ballot.
I don't know, Councillor Perruzza has spoiled his ballot? That's because you spoke for 5 minutes. Okay. Can we give him another ballot? Can we give him another ballot?
Okay. Okay, if they would be quiet, Madam Speaker, it would help.
Yeah.
Just waiting for Councillor Perruzza.
Councillor Perruzza, we're waiting for you. Okay.
Okay, Julie.
So it's going to take a few minutes.
Yep. You can go in the back.
Can we move?
Hmm?
Are we allowed to get up?
No, please
No,
not.
no.
Please not.
You have to still remain in your seats.
We've collected the ballots, please.
No, but after they've collected the ballot, can they stand? Can they stand after you collect the ballot?
Once we've collected, we just want to make sure we can see.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Can members of council say, yes, you can stand now. We just didn't want you to be moving around while they were collecting. Now that they've collected, you could stand. No, you have to be here.
If the paper is taken off, they'll think that there's someone's there. Good job, good job.
just saying I honestly don't have a strong opinion one way or the other.
It's going to be pretty close, though.
Okay, if I can have members of council to please take their seats.
I just think those crazy thoughts.
Members of council, Councillor Davis, Councillor McMahon, Councillor Matlow, Councillor Thompson, please. Okay. Madam Clerk, would you please announce the results of the first ballot?
Members, I have the results of the first ballot for appointment to Ward 44, Scarborough East. There were 40 ballots cast. The number of votes required to appoint a candidate is 21. There were no spoiled or illegal ballots. The votes for candidates are as follows. Roger Francis, 1 vote. Cornelio Chizu, 1 vote. John Porter, 1 vote. Samim Mohammed, 1 vote. David Soknacki, 9 votes. Jim Hart, 27 votes. I will now read the names of the members casting votes for each of the candidates. The votes from each ballot will also be reproduced in the minutes of this meeting. Yeah. For Roger Francis, Josh Cole. For Cornelio Chizu, Jim Karagianis. For John Porter, Councillor Kelly. For Samim Mohammed, Nathan Shan. Yep. For David Soknacki, Councillor Ainsley, Councillor Ajamari, Councillor Carroll, Councillor Cressy, Councillor Matlow, Councillor Mihevik, Councillor Perks, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Wong Tam. Yep. For Jim Hart, Councillor Bailao, Councillor Burnside, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Carmichael Greb, Councillor Crawford, Councillor Davis, Councillor DeBearmaker, Councillor DiCiano, Councillor DeGiorgio, Councillor Doucette, Councillor Fletcher, Councillor Ford, Councillor Fillion, Councillor Fragadakis, Councillor Grimes, Councillor Holland, Councillor Holliday, Councillor Layton, Councillor Lee, Councillor McMahon, Councillor Minnan Wong, Councillor Nunziata, Councillor Palacio, Councillor Perruzza, Councillor Robinson, Councillor Shiner, and Mayor Tory. Madam Speaker, as the candidate who has received more than 1/2 of the votes of the members of council present and voting, I declare that Jim Hart is appointed as councillor for Ward 44, Scarborough East, for the remainder of the term.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and on behalf of City Council, I wish to congratulate Jim Hart on being appointed to the office of Councillor for Ward 44, Scarborough East. I would also like to thank all the candidates who participated in the appointment process for Ward 44. Page, all right. Members, the city clerk will arrange for our member to take the declaration of office at the earliest opportunity. Once the member has taken the declaration of office, the member can officially take their seat on council. Councillor Doucette, you have a motion to introduce a bill.
I have, Madam Speaker, and seeing I haven't spoken today, this is great. That leave be granted to introduce Bill 4714.
Shall leave be granted to introduce this bill? Recorded vote.
714. There you go.
Councillor Kerr-Jansen, Councillor Carroll, please. Councillor Perruzza, Councillor DiGiorgio, please.
Councillor Cole and Councillor Fletcher, please.
Councillor Kelly, please.
The motion to introduce the bill carries unanimously, 39 in favor.
Shall this bill be passed and declared as a bylaw? Recorded vote. Okay, councillors, please, can you just keep it down just for a couple more minutes? We have a couple votes yet.
Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor DiGiorgio. Councillor Shiner, please. Councillor Lee. Councillor Lee, your vote, please.
Councillor Fletcher, please.
The motion to enact the bill carries 38 to 1.
Councillor Holliday, you have a motion regarding absentees.
I do, Speaker, that City Council excuse the absence of Councillor Vincent Crisanti, Councillor Giorgio Mammoliti, and Councillor Pam McConnell from the June 28, 2017 City Council meeting.
All those in favor, recorded vote.
Councillor Davis, please. Councillor Matlow.
Councillor Cole, please, and Councillor Fletcher, please. Councillor DiCiano, please. Councillor Fletcher, please.
The motion carries unanimously, 39 in favor.
Councillor Kelly, you have a motion to introduce the confirming bill.
I do, Speaker, moved by myself that leave be granted to introduce a bill to confirm to the point of the introduction of this motion the proceedings of Special City Council Meeting 30 on June 28, 2017.
Shall leave be granted to introduce this bill? Recorded vote.
Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor Carroll.
Councillor Cole, please.
The motion to introduce the confirming bill carries unanimously, 39 in favor.
Shall this bill be passed and declared as a bylaw? Recorded vote.
Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor Wong Tam.
Okay, if we can just wait for
Councillor
one more
Davis,
minute,
please.
please, members.
Councillor Davis, please.
Councillor Cressy, please. Thank you. Councillor Cole, please. And Councillor Fletcher, please. Councillor Fletcher, your vote, please.
The motion to enact the confirming bill carries unanimously, 39 in favor.
Councillor Davis, did you want to say something?
Oh, no, I just want to speak to you after.
Oh, okay. Can members of council, happy Canada Day. Happy birthday on your face. And there are a number of events happening throughout the city. I have one at Weston Lions Park in my ward if you want to attend. Happy Canada Day. Meeting adjourned.